The rain didn't just fall that night. It came down like it had a grudge. Thick, slanting sheets of water hammered the cracked asphalt of the service road, swallowing the faint orange glow of the streetlights until everything blurred into one endless shimmer of gray. Malik Thompson was standing in the doorway of his small auto repair shop, the flickering neon sign above him barely holding on to life, sputtering every few seconds. He'd already turned off the lights, locked up the register, and was halfway through pulling down the garage door when he caught sight of movement through the storm. At first, he thought it was just the wind tossing a stray trash bag across the road. But then he saw her, tall, slim, dressed in a beige coat that was now plastered to her body, standing beside a sleek silver car with its hazard lights blinking. The car was expensive, definitely not the kind of vehicle that usually broke down around this part of town. Malik squinted through the rain. A Rolls-Royce Phantom, maybe. The kind of car that cost more than his whole garage and everything in it. He hesitated for a second. It had been a long day. 3 oil changes, a busted transmission, and a customer who argued about every penny on the invoice. He was tired, soaked, and starving. The last thing he wanted was to deal with another problem, especially in this weather. But when he saw her lift her phone, shake it in frustration, and then slump against the car door in defeat, something tugged at him. He sighed, grabbed his jacket from the hook, and pulled the hood over his head. The rain hit him instantly, drumming against his shoulders and trickling down the back of his neck. His boots splashed through puddles as he jogged across the street. The woman looked up, startled, as he approached. "You okay, ma'am?" he called out, raising his voice over the storm. She looked at him like she wasn't sure whether to be relieved or cautious. Her hair clung to her face, mascara streaked faintly down her cheeks. I think I hit something," she stammered. "My tire's flat, and my phone died. I've been standing here for 20 minutes. I didn't think anyone would stop." Malik offered a small, reassuring smile. "Well, you're in luck. Mechanic's shop is right there." Her eyes widened. "You own it?" He nodded, crouching beside the car to check the tire. "Yeah, Thompson's Auto. Been here 10 years. She exhaled, some of the tension easing from her shoulders. "Then I owe you more than a thank you." "Nah," Malik said, glancing up at her. "Just a flat tire. You'll be fine in no time." The lug nuts were stubborn, but Malik had done this 1,000 times before. His hands moved automatically, steady, sure, efficient. The rain ran down his arms, soaking his sleeves, but he didn't care. He found comfort in the rhythm of work, the clink of the wrench, the hiss of water against metal, the hum of the storm. "You don't have to do this," she said softly after a moment. "I can pay someone." He shook his head without looking up. "It's fine. Wouldn't feel right leaving someone out here. Not in this weather." For a moment, all they heard was the rain and the sound of the tire iron clicking into place. She stood there, hugging herself against the cold, watching him. Something about his calm focus seemed to quiet the panic in her. He wasn't doing this for a reward, or out of obligation. He was just helping. When he was done, he stood and wiped his hands on a rag he kept in his pocket. "All set," he said. "Should hold you till you get home. Just take it easy on the corners." She blinked, as if surprised it was over so fast. "You're a lifesaver." "Just doing my job," he replied, stepping back. She reached into her purse and pulled out a handful of bills. "Please, let me pay you." Malik looked at the money, then at her. The wind whipped the rain sideways, and for a second, he saw the exhaustion in her face, the kind of weariness money didn't fix. He smiled and shook his head. "Keep it. Just pay it forward next time you see someone stuck." She stared at him, speechless. Then, slowly, a genuine smile broke through. "You have no idea how much that means," she said, her voice barely audible over the storm. Malik tipped his head. "Drive safe, ma'am." He turned to leave, his jacket clinging to him like a second skin. Behind him, the silver car pulled back onto the road, its taillights glowing red through the rain until they disappeared into the darkness. Malik stood there for a moment, the sound of the engine fading, before heading back to his garage. He had no idea that small act, just a flat tire fixed on a rainy night, would change his life forever. 2 days later, the rain was just a memory. Sunlight broke through the gray morning, painting everything gold. The puddles outside Malik's garage had dried into pale stains on the asphalt, and the faint scent of oil, coffee, and metal filled the air. It was the kind of morning that made him feel content in a quiet, unremarkable way. He was working on an old rusted pickup that belonged to Mr. Jenkins, the retired school bus driver who lived down the street. Malik had one hand under the hood, humming along to the blues tune playing on his radio, when he heard a sound that didn't belong there. It wasn't the usual clatter of an old engine or the squeal of brakes. It was smoother, low, deep, and expensive. He froze, frowning, and wiped his hands on a rag. The sound grew louder until it rolled into a powerful, steady purr. Then, around the corner, two silver Rolls-Royces glided down the street like ghosts of luxury. Their polished chrome sparkled under the sun, mirrors of perfection against the chipped paint and cracked windows of Malik's modest shop. For a moment, he thought it had to be a mistake. Cars like that didn't come here. Not to the old part of town, where the sidewalks were broken and the street signs leaned crooked. But there they were, two of them, spotless and silent, coming to a stop right in front of his garage. Malik stood completely still, rag dangling from his hand, mouth slightly open. He glanced around, half expecting a film crew to appear, or a millionaire who'd taken a wrong turn. Instead, a tall man in a tailored suit stepped out of the first car. His shoes hit the pavement without a single splash, his movements precise and deliberate, like someone used to commanding attention. The second car door opened, and a driver in uniform stepped out, nodding politely before closing it again. "Mr. Malik Thompson," the man in the suit asked, his accent crisp, his tone polite but firm. Yeah," Malik said cautiously. "That's me. What's going on?" The man smiled, calm and professional. "My name is Daniel Shaw. I'm here on behalf of Ms. Evelyn Carter." Malik's brow furrowed. "Evelyn Carter." "Yes, sir. Ms. Carter asked me to deliver something to you personally." Before Malik could respond, Daniel gestured toward the two gleaming cars. "These." Malik blinked. "These what?" "These vehicles. Both are registered in your name as of this morning. One is for your business operations, Ms. Carter mentioned your dedication to helping others, and the other, for your personal use." Malik stared at him, words stuck somewhere between disbelief and laughter. "This some kinda joke?" Daniel didn't smile. "No, sir. You helped Ms. Carter last week, on a stormy evening, near Route 19. She said her car broke down and you refused payment." Malik's memory flickered. The rain, the silver car, the woman in the soaked beige coat. He felt his throat tighten. "That was her." Daniel nodded. "Ms. Carter is the CEO of Carter Motors International." Malik swayed slightly, gripping the side of the truck for balance. Carter Motors, the luxury auto manufacturer that made the very cars sitting in front of him. He'd read about her once, in a business magazine someone left at the diner. A woman who'd built an empire from her father's small factory, known for her ruthless precision and unexpected generosity. Daniel reached into his briefcase and pulled out a slim white envelope. "She asked me to give you this personally." Malik hesitated before taking it. The paper was thick, the kind of stationery that smelled faintly of lavender and money. He opened it carefully, and inside was a handwritten note in elegant script. "For kindness you didn't have to give. One for your business, one for your dream. Evelyn Carter." There was also a key fob inside, heavy and cold in his palm. Malik turned it over slowly, the Rolls-Royce emblem gleaming in the light. Daniel continued, "She also asked me to tell you this: she's not repaying a favor. She's recognizing character." Malik looked up, speechless. The man gave a small bow of respect, then nodded to the drivers. They stepped forward, leaving the car's keys and registration folders on the workbench beside him. Within minutes, the two luxury cars stood glinting in front of his grease-streaked garage, like something out of another world. People began to gather: neighbors, passers-by, a few kids from the corner store. Phones came out, photos snapped, murmurs filled the air. Malik barely heard any of it. He ran a hand over the hood of one of the cars, the smooth surface reflecting his wide-eyed face. The metal felt unreal beneath his calloused fingers. His heart was pounding. He wasn't a man who believed in miracles, but this felt dangerously close. Daniel gave him one last polite nod. Ms. Carter said you reminded her of someone. Her father, back when he fixed cars in a small garage just like this one. Malik swallowed hard. Tell her thank you. For everything. The man smiled. She'll know. And then they were gone, disappearing as silently as they'd come, leaving Malik standing in front of 2 Rolls-Royces and a lifetime of questions. He looked down at the note again, then up at the sky, still bright with sunlight. He'd fixed a tire in the rain. No contract, no expectation. Just kindness. But now, as the wind brushed his face, Malik realized, sometimes the smallest act of decency sends ripples further than you can ever imagine. The sun dipped low behind the rooftops, painting the sky in deep shades of amber and violet. Malik stood at the edge of his driveway, staring at the 2 Rolls-Royces gleaming under the last traces of daylight. It had been hours since the cars arrived, yet he hadn't moved much. He kept expecting someone to return and tell him it was all a mistake. The neighborhood had been buzzing all afternoon. People had stopped by, taken pictures, shaken his hand, and congratulated him like he'd just won the lottery. But now, the street had quieted down. The weight of it all began to sink in. He leaned against the garage door, wiping his hands on a rag that still smelled faintly of motor oil. His shop, his livelihood, looked the same as it always had. Faded paint, dented tool cabinets, the stubborn creak of the rolling door, but everything felt different. He had 2 luxury cars parked in front of a place where customers usually came with vehicles held together by duct tape and prayer. Inside the shop, the radio hummed softly. Malik sat down on a stool beside the workbench, staring at the handwritten note Evelyn Carter had sent. He'd read it a dozen times already. The words were simple, but they carried a weight he couldn't explain. For kindness, you didn't have to give. 1 for your business, 1 for your dream. He set the note down carefully, almost reverently. For a man who'd built his life on hard work, sweat, and long nights, this kind of generosity felt unreal. He didn't do what he did for rewards. He'd helped her because that's what people were supposed to do, help each other. Yet here he was, sitting in front of more luxury than he'd ever imagined. The sound of footsteps pulled him from his thoughts. It was Mrs. Jenkins, the elderly widow from across the street, carrying a pie wrapped in foil. Heard about your visitors, she said with a grin, handing it to him. Looks like good things finally found their way to you, Malik. He chuckled softly. Guess so, ma'am. Still trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do with all this. She gave him a knowing look. Do what you always do. Keep helping folks. Maybe now you can do it a little bigger. Her words lingered after she left. Malik walked back outside, his eyes drifting over the cars again. The first one, deep navy with cream leather seats, was clearly meant for business. It was practical in its elegance, with a small plaque inside engraved with his name. The other one was a pearl-white beauty that gleamed even in the fading light. That must have been the one meant for his dream. He thought about what that meant. His dream. He'd never let himself think much about dreams. They were luxuries for people who had time and money. But as he stood there, a strange thought began to take shape. Maybe he could turn the garage into something more, a real shop, not just a patch-up place for beat-down cars. Maybe he could hire a few kids from the neighborhood, teach them the trade, give them the start no one had given him. As he ran his fingers along the polished hood, he imagined it, his name on a clean sign, the sound of laughter from the young mechanics learning their first oil change, customers walking in not because they had no choice, but because they trusted him. The idea made his chest tighten in the best way. He smiled to himself, shaking his head. 1 for your business, 1 for your dream, he whispered. Maybe Evelyn Carter hadn't just given him cars, maybe she'd given him permission to believe in something bigger. The evening breeze carried the scent of rain again, faint but familiar. Malik looked up at the sky, thinking of that stormy night. How soaked he'd been, how tired, how easy it would have been to walk away. But he hadn't. That tiny moment, helping a stranger without expecting anything, had set off a chain of events that he could never have predicted. He started the engine of the Navy Rolls just to hear it purr. The sound was smooth, almost alive. He smiled, but what moved him most wasn't the luxury, it was the reminder of where kindness had brought him. As the streetlights flickered on, a group of kids from the neighborhood rode by on their bikes, staring wide-eyed at the cars. One of them shouted, "Yo, Mr. Malik, you rich now?" Malik laughed. "Nah, kid, just blessed." They rode off laughing, and Malik stood there for a long moment, letting the quiet settle around him. He didn't feel like a different man, still wore the same boots, still smelled like grease, but something inside him had shifted. He looked down at the envelope one last time before tucking it into his jacket pocket. The world was strange that way. You give a little piece of goodness to someone, and somehow it comes back to you in ways you'd never dream. That night, as he turned off the garage lights, Malik paused to take one last look at the two cars sitting side by side under the stars. Their reflections shimmered in the dark windows like two promises waiting to be fulfilled. He smiled, locked up, and whispered to himself, "All right, Ms. Carter, let's make good on that dream."